In order for you to change your mind about something, I have to present you with.
Meet Mark Raffan, the founder of Negotiation Ninja, a leading provider of negotiation training and coaching services. With extensive experience in procurement and sales, he has led high-stakes multi-million-dollar negotiation across diverse industries.
A lot of people go into the negotiation without a plan. They go in without a strategy, without a process. And so when they're listening for an answer, they actually don't know what to listen for.
Author of the book 9 Secrets to Win Deals and Influence Stakeholders, he's a sought-after keynote speaker, and his expertise in negotiation, persuasion, influence, and conflict resolution has earned him recognition, including being ranked in the top 5 of negotiators globally. And today I challenge him to coach me so you can have a practical, hands-on approach into leading negotiation discussions better than ever before.
It's like a personal coaching session, Gabe. Is this what we're doing now?
You caught me.
Okay, let's do it. I'll give you some personal coaching.
Mark, if you lose everything and you'll have to acquire one negotiation skill from scratch, what that will be?
The ability to keep your mouth shut and to plan. That's probably, I'll liken it to two. Those two I would probably have for sure. Your ability to keep your mouth shut and to plan.
And why is that? Why is that so important? Especially to keep your mouth shut.
Most people think that great negotiation skills are a result of slick talking or great conversational skills or the ability to converse like we're doing right now. And that's partly true, but most great negotiators are quiet. Most great negotiators allow the counterparty to talk. They allow the counterparty to have the conversation with them as opposed to them driving the conversation through the words that they're saying. So just keeping your mouth shut, waiting for the counterparty to ask you a question, waiting for the counterparty to answer the question may be the single most powerful tactical skill that you can develop. And then in terms of strategy and planning, your ability to plan and prepare and have a process to negotiate are the strategic, practical planning things that you should be doing.
And while you keep your mouth shut, what you're looking for, what clues or things that your counterpart can say in order to see if those fit your plan that you prepare for that particular negotiation?
Well, you kind of just answered your own question. Firstly, you have to have a plan. You have to have a process. You have to have things that you want to achieve. And then when you're listening for the answer, you're listening to whether or not what the counterparty is saying fits what the plan is or fits what the requirements are. And I think that a lot of people go into the negotiation without a plan. They go in without a strategy, without a process. And so when they're listening for an answer, they actually don't know what to listen for. So they're listening for something, but they're not really sure what it should be. And so they miss a ton of things because they don't know what they want in the first place. So first, you've got to think about what it is you want. Then you've got to think, okay, what does the counterparty want? Then you've got to think, okay, what are the things that are going to drive the things that I want? And what are the things that could drive what the counterparty wants? Then you think about questions to drive information that helps you to get information about the things that you want. Then you listen for that information.
And what exactly prepare for this plan? So let's make it as practical as possible. I'll say I'm a consultant that is helping small businesses acquire clients. And
Yes.
in theory, my goal of the negotiation will be to land that deal while helping the potential client. What should I prepare for and how?
So your goal, it's like a personal coaching session, Gabe. Is this what we're doing now?
You caught me.
Okay, let's do it. I'll give you some personal coaching. So let's just say you are my client. I'm teaching you how to negotiate. You're trying to negotiate with your clients and land those deals. when you're negotiating with them, what are the things that you want to achieve in a client relationship? So you tell me now, what do you want to achieve in a client relationship?
To help them, because if we don't start from a place of helping and making sure they achieve their goals, we are both failing. So that's my first.
I love the benevolence that sounds it, and it sounds wonderful, but what is it going to make it worth it for you? Because that's worth it for them. What about you?
To keep them in this business relationship as long as possible.
Okay, so a
Yeah.
long-term deal. Okay, so we're looking for long term. What else do you want from them?
To be involved, to not just pay me, but to be involved in the process in order to make sure they're actually succeeding. Because that way, if they continue to succeed, they'll stick with me for a long period of time.
Okay, I'm going to write these down. So you want these clients to be long term. You want them to be actively engaged.
Yes,
Correct?
correct.
What else do you want from them?
To be open, and basically that's
What does that mean?
to share as more insights as possible without gatekeeping important aspect that can affect the outcome of our collaborations. So basically,
So you want them to be transparent
yes,
with you. Okay. What else?
and
You want them to be profitable, I'm
yes,
sure.
to be profitable for.
Right. You want to make money from that
Yes,
relationship.
absolutely, and both of us. Again, I'm always starting from that point of view, but of course, everyone should win, not just them, uh, uh, us as well. So both of us should be profitable, and both of us should start from a place of helping, not me to help them, but them as well to help their clients. Because
I love that. Okay. So the reason I'm focusing on you first is because I just want to get clear on what your goals are. So we want this to be a long-term relationship. We want them to be actively engaged in the relationship over the term of the agreement. We want them to be transparent with us, right? We want them to share information with us, and we want this relationship to be highly profitable. Is that fair for
yes,
what your goals are? Okay. Now we're gonna get to what they want in a second, but I want to teach you how to drill down on each of these items so that you can get to what you want faster. So if you want them to be long term, what are the things in the contract or in the relationship that helps to drive the length of the agreement?
constantly getting results. So not just one-off type of thing in which we have a successful launch, they get a lot of leads, they convert those leads into clients. But once that's done, it should be a consistent thing. Like every single month to continue to get results and to see the value in what we provide.
So that's what you're doing for
Yes.
them. But what would they do for you to keep that? So number one is having a long contract term. Are we talking like 3 years, 1 year, 2 years? What does long mean for you?
So minimum of 10 months. Yes,
10
minimum
months?
of 10 months. And yeah,
Okay.
10. And
Is that is that is that considered long in your business?
yes, quite a bit.
Okay, so 10 months. Okay. What else contributes to a long contract term?
The same thing that I mentioned, them to be transparent and share the actual bottlenecks they face when they close the deals, when they're dealing with conversations and so on.
Okay, I'm gonna pause you there because what you're doing is a key mistake that most negotiators and salespeople make when they go into the negotiation for the first time. Because you're a natural salesperson, you immediately want to give. You immediately want to provide. You immediately want to show them what you can do and how you can keep them in the relationship. What we're talking about here specifically is what they can do for you. So contract term is a long one. Probably within that contract term, you want something that keeps them in that term. So no termination for convenience, for example, right? So they wouldn't be able to terminate just whenever they wanted. Would that be fair? Like they would have to give you a notice period of 90 days or 120 days or something like that, right?
Yes, and how would you go about it if I keep it very flexible, and maybe that's a mistake in the sense that they can cancel. So it's m- after a short setup period of 3 months, they can cancel each month if they want. And my
Okay, so how does that meet your requirement of having a long-term agreement?
through the results that I provide. So basically, I make
You're just really hoping that they love what you
uh,
do.
I'm so confident in my abilities that basically I make sure that the churn rate is so low by providing and delivering more and more to them, and especially when the churn or renewal date approach. So then we step
Okay.
up on the gas and over deliver. So they see that they continue to get results, and that's kind of the tactic. Probably it's at least in the approach that I have on negotiation, this works because they don't feel they have to commit for 6 months, 12 months, 1 year, 2 years, or so on. And they know they can cancel at any time. So there is no pressure from outside that, oh, I have to like commit for 12 months out of the gate.
Okay. So it sounds like you've got things that you're allowing to them to do that conflict with one of your number one primary goals.
Good point. Yeah.
So if that is your number one primary goal, we have to have mechanisms in place within the agreement to allow that goal to flourish. Because if we don't have mechanisms within the agreement to allow that goal to flourish, then all of the burden of keeping them in the relationship is now on you, instead of relying also on an agreement that supports that. Now, that's not to say that we're not going to give them excellent service. We obviously are. That's not to say that we're not going to try our best to retain them and keep them happy. Obviously, we are. But what we want to stop is anyone exiting the agreement just for shits and giggles, right? Because if you have off ramps every single month, now those contracts, those relationships are at risk. If you ever want to scale this business and you have employees that are delivering for you, if an employee has an off month and doesn't deliver the service level that, and you only find out because you would only find out after termination notification, and now you're playing catch up on that. There's no option for you to play catch up and to rectify that situation. They've already made up their mind. So, what you would want to do is have notice periods built into the agreement to allow them a notification period and a rectification period. So, if there is a concern that they have, or if there is something that they're really upset about, and they say, hey, we're terminating for cause, then there is a notification period that they're terminating, and that you have a rectification period to be able to fix the issue. So, hey, give us 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, whatever it might be, to fix the problem to your satisfaction and to get you back to the level that you had expected along the way. If you don't have that, then you're opening yourself up to risk in the situation. The trap that you're falling into here is that where most solopreneurs and most salespeople run into is now the burden of keeping this relationship going is entirely on you. And so now you're in a sticky position because you can't especially if you're trying to scale, you can't operate at 100% all the time with every single client, especially if you're going to hire employees to be able to help you. Right? You're going to have rocky periods up and down. We know this, right? This is the world of being an entrepreneur. So, you need a longer contract timeline, right? So term length. You need to have notice periods for cancellation. You need to have periods for rectifying certain situations, and you need to make sure that there's not a termination for convenience clause in the contract, that it's only termination for cause. And you need to make sure that cause is well defined. So, what is cause in your business? You just need to figure out what that definition is and ensure that that's included within the agreement. Because you're investing so much upfront as a solopreneur, that 3-month period for market. If you're an agency, there's so much that goes into that build up that you've lost a ton of money, right? In that first 3 months, you're making no money. You're probably losing money in that first 3 months, which means at month 4, if they decide to terminate, you've had 1 month of profitability that probably doesn't take into account the last 3 months that you've worked for. So you need to make sure that you're actively thinking about how you're going to make your money back on the back end of that agreement, especially if your term is only 10 months long, generally speaking, with this customer, right? So we want to make sure that if long term is one of your major goals, that you're building things into the contract to protect and make that flourish. Okay. So this is sort of giving you an idea of like, okay, well, what do I want really? We could get into, we want them actively engaged. We want them to be transparent. We want to increase profitability. But you can see very quickly, um, unless we're clear about what it is we want first, we immediately fall into the trap of thinking, what am I going to do to serve the customer to get the things that I want? And that's great thinking. And I want you to think that way. But you also need to think about how this relationship is going to flourish outside of you delivering all of those things as well. Once we figure out what we want, then we can figure out what they want, right? So we know that we want long term, we want actively engaged, we want them to be fully transparent, we want to increase profitability or have high profitability on them. What do you think your average target customer wants? What do they want?
What they really want is not what they say they want. So usually we want more clients, but in reality
Right.
they want better clients. Those similar with me, to stick with them for a longer period of time, to be able to truly help them rather than just being trapped in this hamster wheel of acquiring, delivering, acquiring, delivering, acquiring, delivering. And that's the real thing they want. They want clients that stick with them for a longer period of time. They pay better, and as well, they are able to deliver for them better results. So that's kind of the real thing they want after I uncover that for them.
So it sounds like they want two things. They want more clients, but they also want better quality clients.
And to, as I mentioned, to keep them for longer rather than one-off projects.
What else do they want from you?
They want to be as hands-off as possible. So to have a reliable partner that they deliver for them most of the things they need in this client acquisition space.
Limited engagement. Yes. So you can see the conflict here, right?
Yeah, there is a bit of conflict.
You want active engagement and they want limited engagement.
And personally, I managed to find a good balance into that, like having intensive sessions, and that way they are very engaged, they deliver on what they sign up for, they are transparent and so on. And when they're off, they're off. But then we step in and they rely on us that almost everything that we provide, there is no feedback loop involved because we already in those intensive sessions clarify on all aspects of the engagement. So while it's a conflict, I think I managed to find the right balance in terms of their involvement, in terms of transparency and so on, and the amount of time they are dealing with their business and let others take care of the other things.
What else do they want? Do they want low cost or high cost, or what's their idea around pricing or cost?
So they want balance in terms of getting back the return of the investment as soon as possible. The clients that I work with, they are not necessarily price sensitive.
But they want a high ROI.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to see if I can do this here on Squadcast to show you exactly what I'm doing. Oh, there's no way for me to change my camera. I was going to show you what I was writing just to help you along. Okay. So we've covered what you want. We've covered what they want. Now we have to get deep into what you want. So we've covered long term. Then we have to cover what we mean by actively engaged. So does that mean that we need to meet with them on a weekly basis? Does that mean that there's a certain amount of time that we need them to dedicate at the beginning of the engagement? Does that mean that we need to have quarterly business reviews? Does that mean that they need to be prepared for those meetings and there's a list, like a checklist we can send them to ensure that they are prepared for those meetings? Does that mean, it could mean a bunch of different things, but there are a bunch of things that would help us to achieve the goal of them being actively engaged. Let's talk about being transparent. What would we need from them in order for them to be transparent? Would they need to share reports with us? Would they need to share updates with us? Would there need to be certain meetings that we have with them where they tell us certain things about their pipeline or their business or their tech development or whatever it might be? All of these things can be written into the agreement, right? The things that they are required to do to help us achieve our goals. Likewise, when we're thinking about things from their perspective, this is when we get into predicting and asking them what it is they want. So when they say, well, we want more clients, you probably do a good job of this already as a great salesperson. I can tell that you're a good salesperson based on how you're talking. So if they want to increase clients, then we're going to ask them what kind of clients, where are those clients coming from, what kind of target customers are they looking for, and then we can get into conversations about quality, etc. And they're going to try and put in place things that they need from you to achieve their goals. Now, once we have an understanding of what we want and we have an understanding of what they want, now we can start negotiating. This is where most people go wrong. They start negotiating without even knowing what they want. And we can see just in this example how that can go awry almost immediately, because you, as a good salesperson, as a service-oriented, customer-oriented person, immediately started taking on work. Just like, oh, I'll do that. I'll make sure I deliver this. I make sure I'll deliver that to keep you in the relationship. But they also have to do things. This is not just a giving exercise. This is also a taking exercise. We want to make sure that there's both give and take in the relationship. Once we understand the things that we want, our goals, and we call them success drivers, the things that drive the successful achievement of those goals, like the contract term, no cancellation, rectification period, etc. Now we can ask questions that help us to drive information about those things. So a good targeted open-ended question around contract term could be something like, what does a long-term engagement look like to you? Like, how long is long to you? They might say, well, we probably don't want to be in anything for longer than 3 years. Hey, Gabe, you just got to win,
Exactly.
right? So we know that your minimum contract length is 10 months. They said we probably don't want to be in anything longer than 3 years. You say, yeah, generally speaking, we don't do anything past 3 years either. I think 3 years makes sense. Check mark for Gabe. We've already conditioned them that we're going to be in a long-term relationship with each other. And then you can just walk through the questions that help you generate information to be able to lock them into the things that you need. And you ask them questions about what they want, because you want to be able to deliver what they want out of the negotiation. And as you cycle through those, it almost becomes just like a very big framework that allows you to go through all your goals, allows you to check off all of the things that you wanted to achieve. And then at the end of it, if you've recorded the calls, get that transcription, throw that into AI, boot up a contract that meets all of those things, or at least meets all of those requirements. Check it, obviously, before you send it over. Send it over to them for signature. Bob's your uncle. You've got a deal that makes sense for you. This is very, very important for solopreneurs, because so many solopreneurs are operating from the perspective of like, well, this is going to be a long process and we can't do this. It's going to take forever. It's very quick. It's a couple of meetings, generally speaking, and you can get through 80% of the negotiation pretty fast.
And especially when you come from that space of being prepared and actually asking yourself what you want first rather than
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think, Gabe, that is the single biggest problem that I see from almost every single salesperson and entrepreneur that I work with is they just don't know what they want. So once you can get clear on what you want, especially with like, okay, we know we have one target customer, or 90% of our business comes from one key ICP, for example. We work with that ICP all the time. We know what that ICP delivers all the time. We know the kind of person that we work best with. And we can probably figure out pretty quickly what we want repeatedly from that same ICP. And then it just becomes a process game of just running the cycle all the time. And then you can cycle through negotiations super fast.
And speaking of that, so once you have all those in place, like you know exactly what you want, you discover what your ideal client wants, you start preparing and you enter in the call and circle to those questions that uncover the reality of their business, the reality of their wants. How you make sure you don't derail and to make either many other mistakes that you normally see in other people do.
One of the second biggest mistakes that we see a lot of solopreneurs and entrepreneurs and salespeople make is they overcommit. So the counterparty says, well, we want all of these things. Salesperson gets super excited, or solopreneur gets super excited and says, yeah, we can do all of those things because, we can do anything. And then what ends up happening is we overcommit to what's being asked of us instead of saying, we might be able to do those things if you can. So we need to make our giving, our service offering conditional on making sure that we get things in return to facilitate those things going well. So if we know, for example, that the customer wants super high quality leads or super high quality customers going into it, there are things that we need from the customer to ensure that we get those high quality leads or those high quality customers. So they say, well, we want to make sure that we hit a certain profitability, or there's certain checklists that are hit when we get these leads so that we can close at a higher rate so that we can be more profitable. You might say something like, we can do that for you if you can do this, this, and this. Can you do those things? Now the customer has to ask themselves, well, I don't know. Can I do those things? Well, I might be able to do two of those three things that you've asked me for, Gabe, but I can't do the third one. Okay, well, that's going to affect the quality of the customer that we can provide to you. If you can do that third thing, then we can get you the quality of customer that you want. What do you need to change in your business to make sure that you can get that third thing? Well, we need to do this, this, and this. Okay, well, it sounds like we need to ramp up to that quality instead of starting off at that quality. So you can do two out of three things now. That'll get you to this quality of customer that we can provide you. We're going to agree that that's the type of quality of customer that you're going to get for the first 6, 9, 12 months until you can build in that process in your business that allows you to get to that higher level quality of customer. When you do that, you notify us, we change our lead gen processes. That helps us to get you to the quality of the customer that you want. Would you agree that that makes sense? Yes, that makes sense. Great. Let's build a ramp process that allows us to get you to the lower quality customer now and work towards getting that higher quality customer. Where most salespeople go wrong is they'll say, the customer will say to us, or the prospect will say to us, well, we want super high quality customers. We say, yes, we can do those things. We don't make it incumbent upon them to have things in place to achieve those things. And then 6 months down the road, the customer is saying, well, I'm not getting the quality of customer that you told me I would get. Well, that's true, because we should have told them that there are things that they need to do to help us to get them those quality customers. So, but if we don't do that in the negotiation, naturally what ends up happening is we're going to run into tension and frustration. They're going to say, I want out of this relationship. And because we don't have a termination for convenience clause, or a rectification thing that we were talking about, or no termination for convenience clause, which I was talking about, now they can leave whenever they want. And I should have negotiated what we need from them in the first place to help us achieve the things that they want. And I should have less outs for them in the agreement.
And here I will try to, I don't really believe in this, but I'll try to put myself in the shoes of people that I often talk to. They have this fear of losing someone if they impose too many requests from them. Like, I'll need this from you in order to make you successful. I'll need that and that and that. And plus the length of the contract, if they don't sell themselves into, like you give the example of maximum 3 years or minimum 3 years or whatever. How do you overcome those objections if those arise? Like, oh, I want these results, but I cannot commit because that's why I pay you. You have to deliver.
Okay, let's role play. I'll be you, you be a prospect. And I'm going to say, well, I need all of these things. Now you object to me, and I'll tell you exactly what I would say in that situation. So go ahead and object.
So I would like to be able to achieve my goal of getting more quality clients. But unfortunately, I have to run my business. I have to deliver for the clients. So I cannot be that much involved into sharing a lot of data with you, jumping on a lot of calls, or being just available to provide insights and feedback to you.
Listen, Gabe, I totally appreciate and understand how hard it is to run a business. I myself am an entrepreneur. But you told me that scaling your business is a priority for you and getting more high quality customers is a priority for you. Is that still the priority?
It is, but I don't want to work 14 hours days, even that most entrepreneurs do that.
Totally appreciate that. How do you expect me to get those customers for you if I don't have the things that I need to generate those customers?
I assume you have the expertise and you can use the insights that you have from other clients that are similar to me.
Do you think that all of the customers that I work with are exactly the same as you and that have the same needs?
Not exactly, but they might have similar characteristics.
For sure. And there are some similar characteristics, but you are unique. Your business is unique. Everything that you do is unique. The data that you generate, the customers that you work with, the industries that you work within, all of those things are unique to you. Some of the practices may be the same, some of the processes may be similar, but what you're going through is unique. And so, in order for me to help you to generate the kind of customers that you want, I need data from you and I need information from you to allow that to occur. Now, you may not necessarily have the time to be able to do that as the entrepreneur. That's totally fine. Is there someone that you can delegate within your business to do that for you?
Absolutely. And I can provide you access to the data itself. So you can check the analytics, check the reports,
Perfect.
recordings of sales calls,
Outstanding.
and so on.
Well, let's do that. Let's create a plan where there's someone that you have delegated this responsibility to. I'll even provide you with an SOP on how to manage that relationship and the things that you want from that person so that you can sort of tailor it to your needs. And then I'll interact with them. And if I ever have any questions or concerns, I can come to you. But I would need to make sure that we still meet on a regular basis to make sure that we're extracting the information that we would need. Those meetings would just now be shorter because I'd be working with the person that you delegate. Does that sound fair?
Absolutely.
Great. So now, and this is the great thing about the situation that you're in, Gabe, is that you can provide all of those insights and help around SOPs, best way to do things, etc., because we have AI, right? So you can go onto ChatGPT and say, build me an SOP for this, this, and this to help this client work with this employee to generate this information. And you can send that to them with placeholders so they go, wow, this is incredible. You do this for everyone? No, just for you, just to make sure that you are fully aware that we're trying to help you the best way we can. This is amazing. This is the person that I'm delegating. And now we want to make sure there's timelines, right? You're just running it like a project manager would. Now, notice my tone when I was working with you there. I wasn't groveling. I wasn't I wasn't like, "Oh, we're gonna try and do the best thing that we can." I want my tone whenever I work with my customers to be matter of fact. Do you want this or not? You've told me that you want this thing. Here are the things that you need to do to get the thing that you said that you wanted. If you can't do that or you can't delegate someone to do that, you don't actually want that thing very much, don't waste your time and don't waste your money. You're just going to end up at the end of this process being pissed off with me and yourself that you've spent the money. So I'd rather you build the capacity internally first and then come back to me. Let me teach you how to build the capacity. Let me show you how to delegate to someone. Then let's talk about how to do that.
Beautiful. And that's the thing, like for those watching or listening, this is a perfect example that any objection can be addressed if you're focusing on the right things. And what I love about your approach is that you come from that space of this will happen with or without you. Like if you want to be involved and be helped, that's fine. If not, there are others that can. So I'm not reliant on you to make my business survive and so on, which unfortunately is the place that most entrepreneurs come from, the place of surviving, the place of if I don't close this deal, my business will fail. And probably that's why they enter in these negotiation calls uncomfortable, scared, and so on. And there is any way they can prepare for this from a psychological point of view rather than
I think we're talking kind of about the same thing, but about two things. There's the act of confidence, and there's also the feeling of confidence, right? The feeling of confidence sounds like we're talking about first of like, well, how can I feel more comfortable? How can I feel more secure? How can I feel better about these things? That comes from your knowledge, experience, education, your pipeline, all of those things that make you feel a certain way. And then there is the act of confidence, which is showing you that I know what I'm talking about. Now, we want them to be aligned. We want to feel confident and we want to act confidently. And you, it doesn't have to be aligned. I can feel lack of confidence, but I can also act confidently. So even if I'm not feeling super confident, I still want to give off the impression that I am confident because there is nothing less attractive in a sales relationship when a customer doesn't feel confident in us, in our ability, and views us as like, well, I'm not really sure if we could do the thing. And well, we'll just try our best. It's very unattractive to a customer. What a customer wants to hear is, yes, we can do these things. Here are the things that I need from you in order to facilitate those things. Many customers come into this expecting the salesperson to be subservient or something to that effect, and they're used to that. And when you don't do that, it's an immediate pattern interrupt to whomever the customer is to be like, oh shit, I guess I better listen to this Gabe guy. He kind of knows what he's talking about. Gabe, I was planning on shopping around, but if I was going to shop around, what should I ask? And then you just give them the questions to ask all of your competition, knowing that your competition is going to fail all those things. And then you can say, and after you've had those conversations, give me a buzz back and let's have a conversation. Well, Gabe, it sounds like you're really confident that I'm going to call you back. I am. I know what my competitors do.
yeah, true. And that's why it's so important, especially at the beginning, the framing, to frame the conversation in a way that they need you, they need help, rather than, oh, I'm here to serve you no matter what. And that can change the perspective from their end as well.
For sure. I think there's a balance that we got to take here of like, yes, I want your business. I do want your business, Gabe, but not that much, right? Like I'm not going to beg you for it. I would love to work with you. I would love to help you achieve all the things that you want. And in order for me to do that, there are some things that I need. If you can't do those things, we might not be a good fit for each other. And that's okay.
And speaking of that, when it comes to you have complete clarity on the ideal client that you want and you can help. And with that in mind, in that fire of negotiation and conversation and so on, how do you make sure that you spot those? How do you look for them?
This is exactly why we write down what it is we want. And this is exactly why we write down the things that we need to be able to achieve that. Because if we're listening to the questions that we ask, the answers to the questions that we ask, and then they don't answer and pass the vibe check based on the questions that we're asking, then you can say, hey, well, I've asked a few questions here. I'm not really sure I'm getting the responses that I need to be able to feel comfortable with moving forward. I'm going to ask a few more questions around that, but here's what I really need to know. And then you can ask those follow-up questions. If they don't ask those questions, you can say, I don't know that there's a fit here, right? You are, they are qualifying you for sure, but you are also qualifying them, right? So don't forget that this is an exchange of qualification. You want to prove to them that you're the right company to work with, but they also have to prove to you that they're the right customer to work with. And if we don't do that, then we're going to take on a customer that we don't want, and then that always turns out to be a more of a pain in the ass than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so important. Like often I made this mistake, especially when I was new in business, to not only not listening and asking the right question, but not doing anything with that information. They were like throwing red flags all
Yeah.
over. And I was like, ah, I know
And you ignore the red flags. Yeah.
I know I can help them,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it's you sound like someone in a relationship that goes, "I can change him,"
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, "I can make him better. I can make her better." Like, no, that person's toxic. Leave that person alone. You're not gonna change that person, right? And there's red flags that come up in the conversation where you go, "Hey, that's a red flag. We shouldn't have this conversation."
And speaking of that, because negotiation doesn't apply just to business, it's part of our daily life. How do you apply your skills in your personal relationships, in your family, and so on?
Exactly the same way, which may be a failing and a success. But I'm pretty transparent about what I need and what I want, right? Like these are the things that I'm looking for, and I need you to tell me what you're looking for. And if you can tell me what you're looking for, I can try and get those things for you if you can get these other things from me to help facilitate those things. And that communication is really really important. The problem that I see with a lot of personal relationships is that people expect their partners are to be mind readers.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I'm listening to this conversation and I'm thinking, come on, Mark, we just have to ask the right question and have this conversation, or is more to negotiation than that? What's the secret? What's the ninja secret, if you want?
This is the major, major problem that most people have is that they think there is like a silver bullet or a secret success. There are secrets, but the secrets are obvious and you can read about them in my book. There are 9 secrets. The first secret is know what you want. And we saw how important that was in this session right now. It seems obvious when you say it out loud. It seems like, well, of course I have to know what I want. But we saw today, right now, in this session, that we kind of know. We we can kind of verbalize it, but not really. But once you get crystal clear on that, then everything else falls into place. And then it's just about following the process. Forget about, look, there's a ton of trainers out there that are really good about like tonality and did I inflect on this word correctly and did I ask this question just that specific way to generate more information. 80% of your results are going to come down to planning and process. That 20% that is tone, inflection, sentence structuring, framing your question properly, that's the 20%. Focus on getting the 80% first, which is planning, process, understanding what you want. Then you can figure out the rest.
True, because often knowing the basics, even that they are so obvious, most of us we don't focus on those. And so, can you share with us? Because I'm hooked. Like I really would like what you're doing. I know you're one of the top 5 negotiator in the world. And I really want to dive into the book, but can you please tell me those secrets so I know that I can resonate with those?
Yeah, here we go. Let's talk about this. So, 9 Secrets to Win Deals and Influence Stakeholders, a field guide to B2B negotiations. Go ahead and buy this book. I'll read through some of the secrets right now. So, number 1, we talked about today, right? We talked about unlocking your success drivers. Number 2, increasing the probability of success. That's about creating a framework so that you can follow the process. Number 3 is win by choosing what you might be willing to lose, which is about understanding concession planning. Number 4 is reveal counterparty strengths and weaknesses. That's how you ask questions to understand strengths and weaknesses from the counterparty. Number 5 is develop questions that create massive opportunity. Number 6 is create profitability long term, like how we have a profitable relationship and develop a profitable relationship. Number 7 is how we can influence and persuade. This is when we get into the 20%, right? So everything up to 6 is basically the 80%. Now we're getting into the 20%. So how do we influence and persuade? Number 8 is how we prep for day 1 of negotiations. And number 9 is day 1 of negotiations. And it's step-by-step guide, page by page, with examples and exercises and everything that goes along with that.
Beautiful. And there will be a link down below for those interested. And speaking of interest, like I went through your book and I want to work with you. How can I do that?
Easiest way to do that is to go to our website, negotiations.ninja, or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so if you just shoot me a message to connect and say, I heard you on Gabe's podcast, I really like this thing. Let me know where you heard me, because if you just try and connect with me, I'm probably not going to accept your connection. So let me know that you heard me on Authority in the Wild, and then I'd love to connect with you.
Awesome. And Mark, to conclude with something around the persuasion part, because in my view, it's so misunderstood, and most people think I just need to convince people to do what I want in a less than orthodox way. What's the real way of persuasion without being pushy or demanding?
Okay, so it's over 2,000 years old. Aristotle came up with it when he wrote rhetoric in ancient Greece. He said you need to have logic, right? So there needs to be a logical reason why you would do something. When I'm trying to persuade you of something, I'm trying to get you to change your mind about something fundamentally, right? In order for you to change your mind about something, I have to present you with logic. Why would you do this, right? Is there data? Is there evidence? Is there statistics? Is there something that can persuade you of that? So first, there has to be logic. Next, I have to make an emotional appeal. So you have to be emotionally attached to the outcome that I am presenting. And I can use your emotion to either maximize pain with not making a decision in my direction, or maximizing pleasure with making a decision in my direction. So I have to have an emotional appeal. The third is I have to appear credible. This comes down to the confidence conversation we were talking about earlier, but I have to appear like a credible person. So knowledge, skill, ability, education, testimonials, success stories, case studies, etc. What makes me credible? And then number 4 is it the right time? Sometimes you can have all of those things, but it's not the right time. Sometimes timing is not in our favor, because we don't always have the luxury of having the right time attached to it, but there are also the wrong times, right? I'm never going to ask someone to do something on a Friday afternoon. I'm never going to ask someone to do something early on a Monday morning. Those are the wrong times to ask for things. So we can think about, okay, when could be the right time to ask this person for something? When could be the right time to have this meeting? End of the day on a Friday afternoon? Terrible idea. That person's thinking about getting a glass of wine and relaxing with their family. So I probably want to schedule something on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to try and make that time better. So we need logic. We need an emotional appeal. We need to have credibility in what it is we're showing, or at least show credibility, and we need to do it at a time that's appropriate.
And when it comes to time, apart from the time of the week and day and so on, how do you manage to frame that in our conversation so they are committed that before they actually go into the details, yes, I'm ready now to invest in my business, or I'm ready now to invest in the process of working with this individual?
So it depends on the kind of company that you're working with, but I'll give you a personal example for me. So we sell training, typically to large B2B enterprises, and their budget cycles, generally speaking, are on a calendar year. They're thinking about 2026 budgets in October of 2025. But I need to make sure that I'm still top of mind for them up to that budget cycle thinking. So I'm still having conversations with them on a regular basis. I'm still talking to them on a regular basis. We're still talking about all those things, but I'm not a line item yet on their budget. That will only happen in October. But they can't actually have that conversation with me until that time. So many of my negotiations take place in September and October to ensure that I get in place for the following year. So what I recommend for most people is work backwards from whatever the date is where most people make decisions based on their buying cycle. So whatever your customer's buying cycle is, let's just say they're a small business. They're trying to get things ready for 2025. They're probably behind already because they're a small business. They're probably only making decisions in December and January, which means you probably have more time to be able to talk to them. And then think about when it is they have more time to be able to talk about those things. Because if they're busy, if they're an e-commerce business and they're selling stuff during December, or over Chinese New Year or something like that. It's going to be chaos for them basically from December through January. So you've got to start thinking about how you're going to engage with that person in conversation when it's not their chaotic period, because they're just not going to talk to you. Work backwards from that so you can get the contract in place and then have enough time to be able to schedule out all of those additional things. And so your marketing cycle, your sales cycle, your negotiation cycle needs to coincide with whatever the buying cycle of your customer is. Because if you're not coinciding with, you're always going to run into roadblocks and you're like, I don't know why my negotiations and sales aren't working. Well, they're not even thinking about you right now because you're way outside of the buying window. So what is the buying window for your customer? What are you messaging up to that buying window? And then how are you scheduling time to sell and negotiate inside of that buying window?
I love that. Because when you have that clarity, it's much more easier to be confident that you won't hear the objection, oh, it's not the right time for me right now.
That's right. And if it's not, I'm not saying that you shouldn't reach out to them outside of their buying window, but just don't expect to close anything outside of that buying window.
So if that's the case, do you enter in the wrong time? And they'll say like, I'll be ready to commit in 4 months time. How do you make sure in 4 months you're still the chosen one?
Yeah, so constant messaging to them. Hey, just letting you know, I remember that you said that 4 months from now is going to be the right time to do it. Here's some information that you can use to help you in between now and when we speak. Here's an article that can help you. Here's a process that we implemented. So you're always providing that support to be seen as that expert, so that when that opportunity comes around, they're like, hey, man, you haven't asked me for stuff. You've only been providing value. Let's have a conversation.
Nice. And I think this is a good way to conclude this for those listening that they want to stay on top of mind or on their prospects. Always try to provide something of value. Try to be helpful rather than following up for the purpose of, have you decided yet? Are you ready to commit? Because that usually doesn't work.
Right, exactly.
This was wonderful, Mark. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me, man. I really appreciate
It
it.
was an absolute pleasure and honor. And personally, I learned so much from this conversation. Hopefully, those listening took notes and start applying, because what you just shared, it's unbelievable. Thanks for watching to the end. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to check this conversation with Joroki on how to close more deals with ethical selling. Enjoy.